like we're finally not in a tropical rainstorm here in the Midwest for a day.
I thought we were going to be stuck in COVID winter purgatory up here. I'm glad that subsided.
Yeah, for sure.
Miles, where are you right now? Where do you live, Miles?
I live in Rockford, Illinois.
Oh, cool.
Rockford, Illinois. Yeah. How about you?
St. Louis.
Okay, guys, I believe we are on Facebook Live. I'm just trying to figure out the grid view. For some reason, Zoom is having some issues with grid view. But we are Facebook Live. Thank you for joining. Boom. Thank you for joining the COVID in Music series. This is number 7 of our COVID series. This is number 5 of our COVID series. We started a couple of months ago to talk about more grassroots touring, the actual musicians themselves. There's a lot of panels out there on Facebook for organizations and music organizations like Folk Alliance and Americana Fest, to name a few, that are also doing their panels on a global level and an international level. But we wanted to bring this towards kind of more of a grassroots organization and what the boots on the ground are really thinking about in these times. So we thank you very much for joining. And I am adding Rusty Cole here, which is our final panelist. Just to reiterate, how you doing, Rusty? We're already Facebook Live here. We're going to start by introducing everybody on the panel, and we are going to just say who you are, where you're from, maybe what you were doing or what you're doing now, and how COVID's affected you. So, Beth, why don't you start?
All right. My name is Beth Bombara. I'm an artist, and I was touring a lot before the pandemic, and obviously I'm not doing that right now, and I'm trying to figure out ways to connect with my fans online and kind of start fostering that relationship from a distance. And so for me, that has involved, like everyone else, jumping into the live streaming game. But really what I've been trying to focus on is my husband and bandmate. So there's 2 of us, and we've been kind of tackling how to improve the sound, how to improve the video. And we've added like 4 cameras, and we're doing camera switching, and just really how can we kind of make the live streaming experience the best that it can be. And just putting some extra time and effort into that has reaped a lot of benefits. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Awesome, thanks. Specifically, there was something, Beth, that we'll get back to in this panel, but you got added last minute because of a post that you made about house concerts in the last 48 hours here that we would love to get into after our introductions. But that was one of the reasons that we added you to the panel as well. So I want to make sure to bring back to that. How about TJ? You want to go next?
Sure. Hey, everyone. TJ Leonard. I am from Connecticut, and my wife and I have been running a house concert series monthly for the last 6 years. And I also run a monthly music series at a local Woodbury brewing company. And so we've really been focused on building a music community that supports artists. And when everything happened, we really had to look at, how we can really keep things going. So Beth, kind of like much like you said, we kind of pivoted to looking at doing virtual house shows on Zoom. And then had to really kind of figure out, so what are the technicalities around that to actually make it work and sound good, given that every single individual has different technology, as well as every single artist has different technology. And then also, how do we look to make sure the house show has always been, for the most part, a good way for artists to either build a tour or supplement a tour and bring in some good funds. So how do we make sure that if we're now moving to this virtual world, hopefully for not too long, can we also still make it, part of our mission to have that community, but also to support the artists in a way that's going to make it worthwhile for them too.
Yeah, and that's definitely one of the things we wanted to bring up as well, is just because we can maybe do a house concert 12 hours away, does that still, is that financially still successful in this day and age, with if only 50% of our shows end up coming through and stuff like that. So that's definitely one of the things we wanted to bring up on that panel. I'm going to go just round robin in terms of what's on my screen. So that means Rusty, you're up next.
Great. My name is Rusty Cole. I run the talent division, Midwood Entertainment. I also have my own management company called Under the Sea Arts Management. Currently, I have one client on that side, doing Flamingo. So as far as what we were doing before all this started, I was trying to have a vacation the very first time. We all know that having vacation in this business is next to impossible. Yeah, so I was, in the Caribbean when all this started happening, like the second day, and things started canceling in New Orleans and blah, 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 everywhere else. So since then, so I decided, to jump right on things and try to, get new dates on the books and that kind of thing, which, as we all know, has kind of been being proactive right now. It seems kind of is hard in the traditional booking game, I think. You never know when things are going to actually come back. How many times can you reschedule a show? There's only so much real estate out there, all those kinds of things. As far as so really, from an agent standpoint, it's been daunting because you continue to rebook these things and you have to keep your artist relevant. But at the end of the day, then you start getting into radius issues, or, normally a lot of these places would be where you'd be coming back to service the market the second or third time around for the year. So figuring those kinds of things out now, and the whole thing with the capacity and that kind of stuff, that's been a challenge for sure. And so to say that there's like a real strategy, because everything changes daily, it seems like, and especially right now, the big thing is regionally. I'm based, our company's based in Charlotte, North Carolina, but I'm based in Charleston, South Carolina. And South Carolina, 3 weeks ago, I think it was 3 weeks ago or so, opened up outdoor dining, half capacity, with all the social distancing rules and that kind of thing. And then a week later, opened up inside dining. Well, as we all know, a lot of restaurants, especially bar/restaurants, have live music. So there's been live music back here in Charleston. It's not been, full-blown, rock shows, that kind of stuff. But I can tell you, I've played personally 3 shows out of the Poorhouse Deck, and I'm playing this weekend. We're doing 2 shows tonight, and we're doing 2 shows tomorrow. They're all social distance. They're all, within the regulations that the state has put out. They have been unbelievable about how they've been keeping things clean. Everybody's wearing masks. Everybody's got gloves on, all that kind of thing. So, we're starting to see a little bit different, but then I have to be very conscious of who I'm talking to across the country, because that's not the same for everybody. You know what I mean? It's like state to state. So, from an agent side, trying to figure out how to keep everybody still rolling. And then, that comes into play when it starts talking about trying to keep some routing together. I mean, in the last 2 weeks, I've had multiple runs that I had 1 date left on that run, and I could have made that, but it was 12 hours away or 15 hours away. I lost the other 2 or 3 dates around that. So I think that's a big thing that we're trying to figure out too with the artists. Some of my artists are taking the shows that were going to be full band shows and turning them into solo shows. But yeah, it's interesting. I can tell you, as far as we talk about the whole streaming thing and everything, we've seen from doing these shows, originally we streamed the live shows, and the first couple monetarily were super well received, but then as they continue to go on, we've seen that go down drastically. People still watching, but it gets to a point where you can only donate so much or get involved so much. So I don't know.
No, you had some great points. All things that we wanted to discuss on this call. So I love how everybody is really diving right in. I'm gonna keep the introductions going, but there's a handful of things. Starting concerts back up is definitely one of the other things that we wanted to discuss on this panel and where people are at. Just moving along though, Miles. I only recognize you by your hat, but go right ahead and introduce.
Miles Nielsen. I'm here in Rockford, Illinois, and I'm a musician, songwriter, run a studio as well. Do some bookings for some local and regional things around the area, but ultimately in the last, I've been in my house now for March 14th was the date that we sort of hunkered down and stayed inside. I mean, I actually went last weekend to Michigan with my family and my extended family, because we've all been, everybody's been quarantined, so to speak. And so we all met up there in Michigan, and there's 18 of us. And that felt like the shackles of freedom from COVID-19 were released, and we felt normal. And but then, coming back, we were there for 3 days. And but then coming back, Illinois is still kind of on. Today is actually the first day that bars and restaurants are opening for their outside. So if you have a patio, you can go. I think they're able to open it at limited capacity. So things are opening up this evening. But as far as shows go, I had about 40 shows cancel. We had just started the band, the Nielsen Trust, which is a family band with my dad, my brother, my wife, Kelly. We were 2 shows into 14 shows across the Midwest. And we played the first 2. They were sold out. They were great. And then the other 12 got canceled and have now been rescheduled for tentatively, as we're just kind of waiting to see how things go, but they're tentatively rescheduled for December. And my band, The Rusted Hearts, we actually had our first band meeting where we all got together on Wednesday of this week and discussed the future, how we feel comfortable, who's feeling comfortable, all that good stuff. So, but I'm looking at a lot of different things, rebranding, focusing in on my band, and a lot of the things that we don't necessarily have time to focus big picture because we're touring so much. I've taken this opportunity to really, dive deep into the branding, the marketing, the songwriting. Actually booked 2 weeks in Aspen, Colorado for the middle of August. Rented out a house and have a producer from Lexington, Kentucky coming, because we're gonna take this time to go make a new record. And we felt like going away and getting inspired would be something that would maybe, it could be a total train wreck, but we figure we might as well go out and try to inspire ourselves coming out of this thing. So we're just working on new music, and that's where we're at right now. I mean, there's a whole lot in between, but
No, you touched. I mean, everybody's hitting great points. We talked about how not every aspect of the music industry was working in 2019 correctly. And this is a good time to reflect and a good time to wonder. What rebranding, as you said. What worked, what didn't, what do you want to continue to do, what don't you, what's important to you, and why did you get into this in the first place, kind of stuff. Those are all really important questions in these times, and I think everybody's feeling that same thing. That's awesome that you brought it up. I'm gonna just keep. It takes so long to get through introductions each week, so I'm just plugging right along. Taylor, why don't you go ahead?
Hi, I'm Taylor Greenwood. I am here at Stone Arch Brew Pub. Before this all happened, I was doing talent buying and stuff with Mild Music Festival here in Appleton, as well as booking and promoting for spaces like Stone Arch, McFleshman's, and other breweries in town. Now I'm brewing beer. So that that changed a bunch. And then as far as everything relates to COVID and everything, we're sort of just riding things out. We've done a few live streams and stuff with people, and they've been moderately successful, but from a long-term standpoint, just with the saturation of everybody doing them, it's been a hard thing for us to really get behind. So we're just waiting things out. The majority of all of our shows have been pretty good mix of local and regional touring artists. So in the, you know, idea of keeping that going, you know, we're just sort of on hold until we can get that mix back, and especially talking to local musicians too. You know, so many are still uncomfortable that it just hasn't been the right time for us to start programming up at any of these smaller venues.
Have you, not to interrupt, but have you gotten a lot of feedback from audiences, not just the musicians, but have you been getting audience feedback in terms of what they feel comfortable with as well?
Yeah, it's a mixed bag. I think for the most part, people are down with the idea of open air spaces. So that gives me good potential at McFleshman's with a big beer garden. For the most part, people still don't want to be at indoor venues. I mean, I was initially considering starting in our tap room just to keep things going, doing, you know, extremely limited seating, maybe even 10 people, and doing a special small live audience show with live streaming, but not a whole lot of people receptive to that. And frankly, I'm not convinced that it's time to start that either. So.
Well, I appreciate it. And then Ian, do you want to go ahead and intro yourself too?
I'm the Andy Richter of these panels. Now, Ian Thomson, with manager for Adrian+Meredith and director of talent partnerships with Milo Music Festival here in Appleton, Wisconsin. Yeah, a few weeks ago, Adrian and Meredith and I sat down and kind of brought up the plan to do these panels, focusing more on the independent side of the industry, and a way to we can get industry unity out of these panels and try to find some positive in such a negative time. I guess one of the things that I was curious about, and Taylor just hit on that, is do we foresee live streaming becoming a supplement to when we go back to a live room? You know, with the distancing, whether it's indoor or outdoor, you know, how do we make that work feasible for everyone involved financially? Do we see that live stream component coming into play? And then, you know, say if it's a VIP, like Taylor was saying, it's 10 people, maybe it's 25, 50 people, whatever the size of the room. And then that's a one price tier. The next price, second tier price would be the live stream. How do we all see that coming about?
Yeah, you know, for us, I haven't decided if I'd want to do live streaming or if I want to set up, you know, something that's more similar to Tiny Desk, Audio Tree, or whatever, a three song sampling, you know, live audience film. You know, that was another thing that we'd consider, and that's more from a brand development perspective. You know, for, you know, the venues that I'm booking, but also, you know, an extra deliverable for artists as well.
And TJ, you were kind of already doing that, right? You were more focused on the audience participation of these video series more than a lot of other people were already.
Yeah, I mean, I think in thinking about how we were going to make the move, for me, having the house show, the interaction is such an integral component, as with any other live show, the artists being able to hear applause, people being able to connect with one another. So I think that in thinking about live streams now or in the future, I think that any way we can build an interaction, really, I think beyond a chat box, is what's going to make a difference and make people want to engage in those kind of experiences. Because I feel like, you know, I think it was either Rusty or Miles said, you know, people who are doing the live streams, they saw a spike in the beginning, and everybody I've talked to has seen their live stream income fall off. I think we need to be able to kind of build back in something that's going to make it as close to a live show as possible if it's to sustain. Because I don't think jumping on Facebook every Thursday has longer than a few months staying power, or out of necessity as it is now.
Miles is doing exactly that. How's that been?
Well, I am jumping on Facebook every Thursday.
Yeah.
And last night was, no, I mean, TJ, yeah, I mean, I know that was sort of a, you know, but how, as Rusty said, the first one was financially better than almost any venue that I've played in my area, because people were feeling a certain way, and you know, we were all together and like, we need music, we need this thing. And as we did stream number 11 last night, so 11 weeks on Thursday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. We did it last night. Now, last night was financially, I would say, about a quarter of where we were in our week one, you know, which I think is pretty good still. But, you know, I've also been building my fan base in the Midwest for, you know, years. So, you know, people have turned it into, this is their every Thursday stop. I mean, I don't foresee it being a viable thing for more than a few more weeks, to be honest with you, in the sense of we have to change things up. You know, like last night, we actually lost power because of a storm about 45, 50 minutes into the stream, which turned into a really happy accident of, we did it under candle and cell phone light for the last 15 minutes. You know, I refused to shut the phone off because there was 216 people still watching, and they stayed with us through the end. But now you take away those last magical 15 minutes of being, you know, when the power goes off, and, you know, you take away those last few minutes, we have to change things up. I think Beth was saying, you know, about 4 cameras and better audio. I'm like, man, she's way more ambitious than I've been. I'm struggling some weeks to actually just like feel the motivation to go. You know, I asked people last week after stream 10, are you ready for, do you want 11? I mean, or are we doing this now just as like, you know, placating to our own self? You know, what
Exactly.
are we doing here?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm asking my audience too if they want to continue. And Miles, you brought, you know, great points up that come right back into this. Is like, you know, what is the cost benefit to doing that? I mean, there's no cost, but what's the true benefit of doing the live show? It's the direct to fan engagement, you know, and it's a replacement for actual physical interpersonal conversations, like after and before show. You know, the show itself, you're still got a sense of distance during the show, but that personalized interaction is what people are missing, and I think that's where the live show really it's just been a replacement. You know, it's supplemental at time, you know, in the future, but it's just been a replacement to do so.
One thing I want to kind of add on the stream thing is, you know, you're talking about overplaying or those kinds of things. I think, you know, from an agent especially, like strategy side, is like kind of thinking of it as like overplaying a market. You know, you have to kind of go in, and even though it's your best market, you know, bands always want to play that usually more than we probably should. And there's a reason to stay out of that market and come back. I think it's the same kind of thing with the streaming idea, whether that means changing up the content in general. You know, maybe not even doing music, maybe, you know, reading a book or whatever, something where you're interacting with the crowd. Like one of the things, and it was an idea that came up from one of the musicians in New Flamingo, and we do this thing, it's called a power hour. And, you know, I mean, maybe it's not the greatest thing to be promoting drinking along with this, but it's something, you know, just like you know, how you have a sip of beer at every minute. But it's something that where we engage with our fan base, and it's goofy, and it's, you know, it's super lighthearted, and it's that kind of thing. But it's something that's like, oh, cool. Then the next time I'm going to go out, like we're getting feedback where people are like, all right, well, we want to see music now. And that's what we want. We want them to say, give us more music now. You know what I mean? So then we can kind of go back and forth. And I think that's something that should be kind of considered because musicians are artists all the way around. They're creative, period. You know, like most musicians I know are dabbling in some type of different artistic endeavor. I saw Todd Harrington from Virginia. You know, he did like a 2 to 5 minute thing of him eating breakfast and then showing his painting that he was doing. And his painting is incredible. But that interaction of him eating breakfast, it literally didn't say anything. And it was awesome. The response was great. It's just the personality. And I think that's what we miss more than anything. Yes, the interaction, but it's the personality of people in general. You know what I mean? Like that's what we love. And figuring out how to utilize that, I think, is going to be the ones that succeed in the streaming age or don't. You know what I mean? Like a lot of great.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. To further my previous point too, and where I was trying to go with it, and I did a poor job at, which is, you know, these components to the streaming game, they can be taken beyond the streaming once we kind of get back to a touring or even a sub-touring lifestyle. You know, the direct-to-fan communication and the out-of-the-box creative experience that you're giving your fans, that's something that we've had to be more creative in this time that we can kind of take with us, you know, going forward. How do you be creative with your fans going forward? You know, things are still opening back up, and they will continue to open back up. Beth, I want to bring that one back in. It's like, you know, the house concert situation, but like, how do you make it a more personalized, you know, coming out of this, how do we take that more personalized direct-to-fan approach that COVID gave us?
I want to
I hit mute.
I want to take a moment. I'm just following along. So we do have a comment on our live feed right now. Alan Larson, who's a great super fan of musicians everywhere. He's up in Appleton, Wisconsin, and he was pointing out that from a fan perspective, he said, the problem I see as a viewer is that where previously you would go out, you would choose the music from a local venues and artists that they love, they would choose those shows and go. Whereas now every artist from all over the country is available at everyone's fingertips all the time, every day. And as fans, it's really overwhelming, you know, to choose and to try to follow that. And so from a fan perspective, I just wanted to throw that in. Thank you, Alan.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. Let's hold on to that. I know, Beth, you had something to say. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's a good thing to get to. But I wanted to add to what Miles was talking about, his live streaming experience has been, and I just wanted to say, like, I've kind of experienced a similar, like we've been doing a similar thing. I did my 11th live stream on Monday, which also was a holiday, but I think just picking that day and sticking to it has been really good. And I've kind of am trying to gauge too, like, do people want me to keep doing this? And the overwhelming response has been yes. This is what we have right now. And they still want that. And so I'm gauging, you know, well, how does that make sense to transition to, like, maybe still do music, but doing what Rusty was talking about, like incorporating other sort of types of things into that live stream. So it's a little more personable. It's not just music, but really what I'm thinking about is the possibility of still doing live streaming while touring. So as things start to open back up, you know, Mondays can be not great nights for people to go out and see a show. So what I've talked about with the band is, like, you know, if we're out on the road and it's a Monday night, which is our streaming night, you know, and we have an off night, we're just gonna live stream from the hotel and do something, you know, strip down. So for me, I kind of see the live streaming just evolving and kind of being a cohort to touring. So yeah, that's just my adding on to what Miles was talking about. But
yeah, I want to throw one more wrench into this conversation that we haven't really chatted about too, is the venue perspective. And, you know, Ian and I were chatting right before this. Unfortunately, sadly, three more music venues that we probably have all played at are now no longer existing. And, you know, it does make the remaining venues that more coveted and that more needed. Mm-hmm. And a great space, as we discussed in previous panels, a great space is a great space. And we probably now more than ever now realize how important a great space is to see live music. But that being said, you know, the venues are going away, and that will impact what's available and what we're opening back up into. And that's, supply and demand. How many more musicians are going to go back on the road? How many more venues are they going to be able to go to? Maybe TJ or Rusty or Taylor have something to say about this, but like even Taylor already mentioned it. It's an indoor concert series now becomes an outdoor concert series. A 500 cap room now becomes a 20 cap room. A festival now becomes a concert series. Is that obviously that impacts a lot of different aspects of our touring world, but I kind of wanted to hear more from the venue side on that as well.
Yeah, let me quick add one more thing. And I think this was getting back to what you touched on earlier, is because it's the uncertainty that we're dealing with right now. It's impossible to plan anything, booking wise, how do we navigate this uncertainty? And we're starting to figure that out with the ideas that you were talking about, shifting, which, I want to throw it to Ian and Taylor in a sec here. But when I was in the middle of just laser focused on live streaming, I had someone I know contact me and say, hey, look, everybody is just so down right now. And I would like to organize something for my neighborhood. Would you be willing to come set up in my front yard? We have a flat porch. It's kind of like a perfect stage. And you just set up and I will tell the neighbors. And I said, well, I really don't know it, that sounds like a good idea if everybody's spaced out, but I had a lot of uncertainty about it. And I said, okay, I'm comfortable with that. I trust you. I trust you to communicate with the neighbors. And so we did it. Kit and I showed up to their porch. We brought a little PA, we set up, and the neighbors came, spread out across 6 different lawns across the street. Other neighbors were out listening on their porches. And we just played 2 45-minute sets. And the response was amazing. One woman came up to me, from a distance, and she had tears in her eyes. She said, I didn't know how much I needed this right now. And I think that just kind of was a revelation to me. There is a way for us to safely work out live concert experiences going forward. And people need that. And artists need that. I didn't know how much I needed it as well. So that's kind of my little, I think there's a way forward with this. And it's gauging everyone's level of comfort with it, and just doing it in a responsible way. And I think that we can do that. So I'm going to throw that to Ian and Taylor or whoever else to kind of respond to that. But I think there is a way for us to move forward with this, and we're figuring it out.
Yeah, it's so awesome to, that people are able to, get creative and try other things. I think it's still just a question of whether or not that's sustainable. And, is something like that going to work out for, Rusty's artists, or, how many people are going to be able to do that? From a venue standpoint, I mean, all we can do is wait, back to, what you're all saying just about stuff changing every day. I mean, Rusty and I were working on something for the summer, and as of last week, we're, ready to go for it, and, thinking things would look good. And now we're looking at the end of the year. And even at that, I don't want to speak for you, Rusty, but I don't think, either of us are certain that that's going to roll through. And, it's all you really can do is wait. This space, I mean, it's a treat to get artists in here when we can have our full 75 cap room. And, Miles knows that, but I mean, how different is it going to be if we have to be, limited, to to be able to put together a proper offer that's going to work for, you know, Miles or Rusty or, you know, Beth or Adrian Meredith. You know, you all have played here, which is awesome. What's a 10-seat show look like? I don't know how I can pay you guys. You know, we got a restaurant and everything. We talked about doing.
I think it looks like the beginning of my career.
Yeah. So,
you know, I mean, I guess that, you know, I hear that. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I hear you. Like that's been a lot of my focus is also being conscious and caring about the people that have music venues like yourself, like like you know, and TJ, I don't know you, but I can only imagine, like, how does that work? How is that going to work? And Rusty, you can probably speak to this way better because you're actually playing some shows now. How is that down there? Financially speaking, also like in a symbiotic relationship with you and the poorhouse, how is that, or is everybody sort of one for, you know, are you guys coming together and saying, okay, we're gonna take less because we're all in this together. We want to see you guys succeed. If you succeed now, if you make a little more, going forward, we can all have a better relationship. I mean, I can't speak to it because I haven't been able to play any shows. So Rusty, you're probably the one to go to.
Sure. Well, the way that they've done it is, so on Wednesday nights, I mean, we've been doing this thing this is actually our 10-year anniversary. But it's just a Grateful Dead thing that I've been doing, you know, on the side, just for fun. Like, you know, I was in a touring band called Soldierman Train for 7 or 8 years, but this was kind of like just my fun thing to do on the side. And I've kept doing it, you know, from a creative side and just to get out from the phone and the computer and that kind of thing too. But anyways, you know, we would have close to 300 people come in and out every single Wednesday, you know, and, you know, even rainy days, you'd have 100 people out there, you know, and they just would love it. But so the cap now with the way the seating chart is set up is 122. And what they did is for the Wednesday shows, for the last 3 Wednesdays, what we've done is they've been very, you know, it's on their website, all the safety features, all that kind of thing. But also one of the big things is that, you know, how are you going to put that kind of demand into 122 people? So what they did is, like, every hour and a half, if there's people waiting, your table was turned. They would come in, they clean the table and everything, and they bring it in. And, you know, I think every week we've pretty much turned the tables over 2 to 3 times throughout the 4 hours there, you know. So I guess maybe every hour they would turn. I'm not sure what the exact number was. But anyways, monetarily, now we went down to, normally we're a 5-piece band. The first week we did a 3-piece. The second 2 weeks we did 4-piece. We kept it acoustic, tried to keep it from getting, you know, promoting people to get up and dance around, especially after having a couple cocktails and that kind of thing. And they did really well. Monetarily, we pretty much came close to walking with the same amount that we normally would. And then it's a bar percentage deal. And then, especially the first week we did it, we had a really big donation from the streams also. So we actually made more than we normally do. Now tonight and tomorrow night, there is an early show and a late show. So the early show is from 6 to 7:30 and the late show is from 9 to 10. It's $10 a seat and you have to purchase a table. So the tables are anywhere from 4 to 8 people. And the reason doing that is so that you're seated with people that you're familiar with, that you know where they've been, that kind of, you feel comfortable with it, that kind of thing. Is that you're not sitting right next to somebody that's you don't know. So what they'll do, so doors will be at 5, show will be from 6 to 7:30. Then you'll have an hour to kind of hang out with your table. At 8:30, everybody's cleared out. They clean the place completely, flip it over. 9 o'clock, second seating. Even if you bought both early and late, they still remove everything and then seat them again. And then the show's from 9 to 10:30. Then you have another hour to sit around, catch up with people, and then midnight is hard curfew. So, you know, I think we're a table away from selling out both shows tonight. Tomorrow, early shows probably got like 5 tables left. Tomorrow, late night is already sold out. So, yeah, I mean, we're gonna do pretty well the next couple of days.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's excellent.
nice. I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna feel really good. So I think there's ways to do it. I think the early and late show thing is a really good way to go about it because we're like I said, we're on the way to selling out all of them, and by the time we're done, that's basically the capacity of what we can do.
Yeah, that's awesome that you got. Thank you for like breaking it down to like actual details too, because that was one of the questions that I had too as an artist.
TJ, you quickly adapted into probably our best experience playing a virtual show where you kind of took your awesome house concert series that you have up there in Connecticut and you made it virtual, and it's been really great. My question to you is, what is the conversation internally in your home about bringing concerts back in person?
Yeah,
or is there one?
And let me add to that. So like one of the topics of this conversation today was regional touring, and when we were thinking about Rusty and we're talking about Taylor, I mean, you guys don't live anywhere near each other, and those are different parts of the country that have different numbers, and they think differently, and the culture is different, and the numbers reflect that culture. And Connecticut obviously is in the news a lot, so go right ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think just to even think about first the brewery where I also do shows. I mean, they've gone from being in a 180 capacity room, indoors, to only being able to have right now 30 people outside. So the numbers right now aren't even there, I think, to consider. I was talking to him yesterday, bringing back live music in any form, because it just would not be worthwhile, and it wouldn't just be enjoyable for the audience or the artist either, we don't think. In terms of the house shows, so we kind of shut everything down obviously in March. We had our last show March 7th, and then everything else from that we kind of pushed everything, either canceled or rescheduled to starting in August. But I'm not even so sure that August is going to be the time to bring people back into our home. I think what's going to happen is, number wise, you're talking 40 or 50 people. That number probably by the time August rolls around may be an appropriate gathering number. But then I've got to weigh, I have 2 kids. Is it appropriate to have people that we don't know in our house, given everything going on? And also, how many people that we don't know will feel comfortable coming to a house they don't know? So I think that what's going to happen is the numbers are going to work in favor of running a house show, but I just don't know if the comfort level is going to be there, or when it's going to be there. And I think we're going to have to just kind of work with that evolving very slowly.
Well, kind of just a general question too is, as I'm thinking this through too, do we feel like the risk goes down if we do outdoor house concerts, right? Where we're in somebody's backyard and they're willing to rent a porta potty, and then we are not endangering anyone's actual home. And it's sort of up to, it's liability wise, everyone's adults that made the decision to come, both the host and the audience members, is that, I don't know. That's kind of the question I've been asking myself in thinking about the future of this too.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I know Ian's got
go ahead, Ian.
I was just gonna point out, when we're talking about venues and getting back out there, what are the safety expectations from the artists, and then also from the agents, everyone involved? What are the safety expectations or procedures from the venues or someone's house, whether it's indoor or outdoor? And then from the artist standpoint too, what are they looking for?
One thing that we're doing, Brandon Johnson, who runs sound here for us, he built a UV box for our microphones. So that's a new thing that we'll be doing. We'll be sterilizing all in-house microphones and stuff, and I'm sure other gear as well. I mean, that's one small step that's going to be implemented.
There's a conversation that happened in a previous panel that I'll re-bring up. Are venues thinking about security, extra security, to make sure that things don't get out of hand if there's a punk show?
I think whether it's a punk show or a folk show, I think people are pretty excited to see music, and I think if you add alcohol into the equation of those things, people, like Rusty said, you play acoustic because you don't want to encourage them to get up and boogie, but I mean, you play the Grateful Dead, man. You have a couple drinks and maybe a you know, you go check the tire pressure and you come back in and you might want to dance a little bit. So, you know, I mean, it's up to policing ourselves as human beings, I think, more than anything going through this. And, you know, I thought about, like, in some goofy way about creating some sort of a microphone, like a 6-foot microphone stick that I have, that, like, in a humorous way, I could sort of poke someone and just say, you know, like, you get too close to me, because some stages are built where, you know, you could come right up and you can, you know, I mean, we all have been there, I'm sure, as performers. Someone comes up, man, they're pretty aggressively speaking at you. They're throwing some spit on you pretty good, and you're like, ow, what? Now it's like changes the whole game, you know. I mean, we're all going to be Howie Mandel before we know it, you know. But it's, you know, I want to be able to just to know that, I think it's policing, you know. I mean, I think as musicians, it's going to be a little bit more on us too, and hosts of concerts and talent buyers and all those things, of just being a little bit more aware. I mean, it's going to come back, and it's going to have to be a thing that comes back, and it's just about being safe along the steps of coming back. I feel like along the way, I'm not freaked out to go play music in front of people or to be in a room with people. The thing that I'm more freaked out about is to not be able to do those things, you know, to look a year down the road and still be streaming music. And, like, I didn't get into this to sit in my house. You know, I got in this to jump in the van with, you know, with my guys, and to be in a room with people, and the synergy and the energy that comes along with that. And I think hearing Rusty's explanation of how they're doing it, I mean, that lifts my spirits greatly, where you're like, oh, turning the room around, that's smart. Doing 2 shows. Okay. You know, my philosophy has been during this is, like, spending a little bit more time in maybe one market to build a little bit more of a community sense. Not just doing one show, but say, okay, we're going to do a show with Taylor at the Stone Arch, and then the next night we're going to do a thing in the Spats parking lot, and, you know, we're going to try to be somewhere for maybe, you know, a few days to build on that community aspect of what we're doing, so the community gets to know my band and my songs and our approach. And, you know, not like, all right, our load-in's at 6 p.m., show's at 8, we're back on the road at 11 p.m., 6 hours to the next venue. Getting a little bit more, you know, antiquated with creating a more of a community inside of that market, which, I mean, the Mile of Music Festival does a great job of doing that. But
yeah,
you know,
that's a great one. I didn't think about that. Like, taking, you know, like, do tours become, you know, in the month of July we play the East Coast, in the month of August we played the Midwest, and we just kind of stay closer in the community and try to get a sense of community going, just like you said. Like, would that, I mean, that's a whole different way of regionally touring, going back to the whole topic of the panel, but that definitely kind of checks some boxes in what the CDC is telling us to do as well.
That leaves you some options too, to connect with some of the super fans too. I think that, you know, if I, you know, want to go see Adrian+Meredith, or, you know, any of you guys, obviously, at you know, one show or whatever, maybe I take the weekend off, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to go down to Oshkosh with you guys. Yeah, I'm going to go, you know, down to Milwaukee. You're in the neighborhood, I'll make a weekend of it. And I think there's some people that would be into that too. I think that's really neat.
Yeah, I like that model lends itself to being able to play for more people, because you're doing multiple shows, so people can kind of pick and choose. And if there's 30 people and that show's sold out, or whatever the scenario is, then there's, like, another show that they could feasibly, like, go to.
That could go ahead, Ian.
I mean, it's aping off of the Mile of Music model a bit, you know, where if you have you catch the last 10 minutes of a band and you're like, wow, I loved those guys, you know, but I only caught the last 10 minutes. So, but guess what? Tomorrow at 11 a.m. you can catch them again here. For me, it's like, I look at, like, I just feel like the disheartening number of going into a room like the Stone Arch at 10, 12 people. Well, no one's winning. You know, you're like, you just to pay for your staff and your sound and the whole thing, you're upside down already on that. So, but if you can agree that like, hey, Taylor, we're going to do this thing here. And then later that night, maybe we go to your house and we do a campfire acoustic show. And the next day we hook up with Julie from Spats and we do something, then you can at least make those numbers up. So across the board, everybody has a little bit more of a win. And, you know, I mean, you know, at least we're all like financially being fiscally responsible with each other and saying, hey, I know you're going to probably break even at the Stone Arch with, you know, your 15-person capacity. But later that night, if we make an exclusive campfire thing for 30 people and we can all distance and have a good time, that makes, you know, everybody puts in $10, $15. Well, that makes up the difference there. And I don't know, you know, just without being open on our end in Illinois, it's so hard to know. I know people are really excited about going out tonight. And I couldn't be more excited about staying in tonight because it's like they are going to go out and it's going to be shots, hugging. I can just see, I can see it. You know, I mean, the irresponsible nature of the town that we live in. I love my community, but man, they are pumped. You know, it's like spring break. You know.
Yeah, I think what you were saying too is it could be really great for for a little music city too. Just bring people together. I think that to have an agreement like that with an artist or with other venues, bringing other competing spaces together, and so like you're taking a new look at artist touring and stuff, and you start to see some of those radius clauses fall off, and more people come together. Like now our town's just doing a weekend with Miles or whatever. I think that would be really interesting.
The other thing too is that, I mean, I am definitely concerned about the safety of others and everything, but at the same time, I am concerned. I don't feel like I'm overly paranoid about anything, but I think that when we start looking at touring in that way, very regional, you also have a situation where you would be able to go back to the same like dorm quarters every night, whatever that is, whether you do have a fan that you feel safe with that you're staying with, or you do find a hotel that you feel like has done good cleaning. You're limiting that risk of like every day staying in a different place, jumping state borders, going into zones that you don't know anything about. And it's like for a week, if you can go back and sleep in the same bed, I do think that there's some health benefits to that, that put the actual musicians a little bit less at exposure. And then I don't know if
and then the easy one is just not transporting the virus from Florida to California in 24 hours like we used to do. I mean, there's no reason to drive 17. I mean, if I told you you're not going to do any more 17-hour drives to get to a gig, is that a good thing or a bad thing? You know what I mean? Like, I didn't really want to do it back then either.
I'll still do it.
I think that brings up an interesting point, Adrian, just in general, because I think one of the hardest things as an agent to tell your building bands especially is that, yeah, it's cool to tour if you're an East Coast band or whatever. Yeah, it's cool to tour the West Coast, or it's cool to tour in New York and the Northeast, but you're not doing anything yet there. Like until you can really do things within 10 hours of where you're touring, like why are you going out and wasting this time and money and resources and also the length of time that your career has, you know what I mean? I think, and I'm not saying you can't do it. It's a great thing to do from like a life experience, but from like literally from building your career, I think that staying closer to home and doing this, and maybe this will help that come to light a little bit more, and maybe we'll see bands, not burning out as much. And maybe it can always be a blessing in disguise too. But when you brought that point up, I had to mention that. So it's something that artists should consider, that it's okay to tour regionally, like, and if not, it's could potentially be really good for your career too. So anyways, yeah, I just wanted to make that point on that.
Well, yeah, I want to take just a quick minute. We've got about 10 minutes left. So if we want to kind of make the rounds on any closing thoughts, closing remarks.
Yeah, we had a lot of great, really, truly, we get some nuts and bolts out of this one. I mean, I really appreciate Rusty jumping in and like hour by hour breakdown.
I'll just go because I'm going to go pick up my daughters from their mother's house and bring them to my house for the weekend, which if anybody out there co-parents during the COVID, co-parenting has been a really good way to work together, you know, to make sure the kids have been here, the kids have been there. Who are they with? Who do you want them to be with? Who do you not want them to be with? Where are they going? So I'm going to get them. But Rusty, thanks for the insight on, you know, South Carolina. That's huge for us in the Midwest as we're just getting back open to know, you know, that's a really good thing. I think I could share that with some of the music venue owners that I know around here. About the early show, late show, turning tables over, that thing. One question that I did have, and I'll leave it at that, but for you would be, how do you determine in that 4-hour stretch, how do they determine when your time is up on that table?
So as far as the non-ticketed shows, it's when you show up. So it's say it's 90 minutes or 75 minutes, whatever it is, they just write it down. So if you came in at 5:45, it's a, yeah. Now for the actual ticketed shows tonight and tomorrow, it's, you know, you have doors are at 5, closes at 8:30.
Sure. I guess I was speaking more to the non-ticketed shows. Yeah, cool. So it's an hour. It's an hour. Gotcha.
Yeah, and they tell everybody. Or I only saw one time that anybody, you know, given any lip, and it was they would have given lip no matter what. So just all this time, and you're gonna have those type of people, whatever.
Sure.
Other than that, everybody's been like, wow. It kind of sucks, but I get it. You know what I mean? And like they also, or they would go out. I actually saw one table that was there early go out, and I think they went and got some food or something, or they waited. And then on this next time something was turned, there wasn't someone out there. They were able to come back in. So for the most part, I would say 99% of everybody was totally cool about it. Everything worked great. So
Awesome.
That table went out to check the air pressure on their tires.
Safety check.
Or a remark about Ian's beard, one of the two, because that.
Well, Rusty, since you go ahead, you have any closing thoughts about this?
I think the only thing that I would want to say is that, like, especially from an agent side, or, you know, in general, is that I had a kind of a rude awakening in the sense that it was just kind of just ignorance on my side. You know, be aware of who you're talking to and what part of the country, because everybody's dealing with this so differently. I was, you know, like had a string of calls with people in the Southeast, and everybody's like, you know, we're going to announce the festival, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, that, and the other. And then I got on a call with someone from New York and I started talking to them, and they're like, why are you even asking me about doing a show this year? And they were like legitimately upset about it, not being rude. I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that. So all the way around, I would just, that'd be the thing that I've definitely learned from it, is like, make sure you know which region you're from.
I totally agree. And I think that one thing, you know, just to kind of piggyback on that, I think that the trait, the aspect of grace, I keep coming back to in all of this, because everyone is trying to figure it out, and every community is different, and everyone's personal comforts are different too. And it's important to respect everyone in that, as long as we continue to respect each other.
And it's important to, it's just important to communicate. It's important to know what's going on in South Carolina. Like Miles said, it's important to know that certain parts of the country are in a different spot. It's good to know where you stand.
Yeah,
So
I was
think that's
asked.
a great point. Thank you.
I was asked to play 2 shows this weekend, tonight and tomorrow, and I turned them down only for just a perception and a safety sake of me and the band right now. I don't want to be the first one out of the gate, and I would rather be wrong right now than be right, you know, in that sense. So, you know, it's encouraging, but I really appreciate you guys having me on today, and hopefully some people I know I got some things to take away from this that are really positive. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks for joining.
Awesome. TJ, you wanna? Well, sorry, we'll go through each one.
Yeah, and
on the
Miles,
last.
if you need to hop off at any point,
Yeah,
thank you. Thanks for joining. But yeah.
TJ or Taylor, if you guys have any final thoughts.
I mean, sure. I mean, I would just say this whole experience has made me realize how important the community is that we've built in terms of the fans that come to our shows, as well as the artists that we've met. And I think just as we continue to move forward, it's just so important that we keep brainstorming ways to kind of keep everybody connected and keep that community together, because I think people need it for their they need it, period, but especially, you know, for their emotional well-being, I think it's so important that we keep kind of pushing the envelope, utilizing technology in ways that allow us to stay together and connected and support each other and the artists that we care about so much.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks for all that you've done to support artists during this time. You jumped right on it. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, this is definitely a time to reflect and say thank you guys for the last couple of months and the way it's been going too. Beth or Taylor, you guys want to go next?
I've got one last thought, and this is just, I don't know if it's more of a closing statement or just another idea. When you guys were talking about, touring more regionally, and the idea of doing an early show and a late show, because that then you can get more people in, and the artist is already there, they've already sound checked. So how do you kind of maximize that work? So you could take that even further. And I was thinking about Stone Arch as an example, but smaller spaces like this could possibly benefit from just doing a residency. So you would have the same artist come and maybe play 3 or 4 days in a row. And you could advertise that as a residency. And it's kind of a similar idea to, playing in the same town or neighboring towns, like staying in that same community, but you, to maximize the work that you have to put in, if you set up and sound check once, and then you can play 4 shows. That could also be another very cool model. I'm saying, Taylor, I would do that at Stone Arch.
I was gonna ask you too, because I know you were one of the people that responded to my question on Facebook just about comfort levels and stuff. But I can't wait to have you back up here. Obviously, Appleton, all of us love you so much.
Well, thanks, bud.
Yeah.
To bring up the previous point that I was making, that is a concept of Facebook Live playing every Monday and taking it to a live performance. It's just taking that exact same idea, that exact same model that didn't exist really before, and turning it into that residency model. Exactly what you're saying, Beth.
Yes. And then one other last thought to that, which is something Kit and I have been talking about, is we've talked about actually doing a live stream tour. So I personally, I love national parks. And so we've kind of thrown this idea out there where we're like, okay, we will drive to national parks and we'll like camp and we will do live streams from there. So it's not, it sounds kind of crazy, but we won't be doing it, playing shows for people still, but it would be a way for us to still get out there and do something that's a little different. And I could see that model working if you start to pepper in like other sort of shows, and that could be like a model for touring. So we've been throwing that idea around too. Yeah.
Thanks, Beth. Taylor, do you want to wrap up, like final thoughts kind of thing?
Yeah, just playing the waiting game here. I think that, I've been grateful for the time to just think about, what these programs are going to ideally look like down the road. We always want to make improvements. So I think right now I'm just focused on being able to come back better than we were able to before. I want to make sure that we're doing a better job promoting down the road, and as things start to open up a little bit more, we'll really build on the excitement that's been a result of this. And when everybody's ready to come back out, we're going to do it the way we wanted to and feels best and is the best for all of our artists and agents and everything, and just keep her moving.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ian, how are you feeling over there? We've chatted a bunch this week. I feel like we got lots of ideas.
Yeah, there's definitely been a lot of things happening and flowing. Just want to thank everybody on the panel, their time, their insights. It's been really great to see, the insights on as states begin to reopen, the thoughts behind that, getting out there, and just what those overall comfort levels are, putting your name and brand behind a live tour right now, or in the next, 6 to 8 or 12 months, and then what that's going to feel like and look like. And, you know, just cohesively, if we continue to talk, continue to work together, you know, we can continue to make these things work. So I appreciate all of you.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for getting on today. Thanks for just roundtabling it with us. That's what we're all trying to do, is figure it out. So we really appreciate you guys joining. To all those watching live, feel free to put your questions in there. I'm going to put all of our panelists on the spot in saying that they are available to be reached out to. We've tagged them all on Facebook, so feel free to message them. I didn't ask their permission beforehand, but sorry guys. If you have anything you want to follow up with, you know, we are really all in this together, and I've tried to reiterate this every week, but this is a community, always has been a community first. And we know that we can recover, so.
And we encourage each other, if you don't know who each other are. I know there's a few people that have not been friends prior to this panel, so we encourage you to reach out to each other and just keep communication open. And if you have any you know, links or stuff to send, we've also been adding that to the comment section at the bottom. If there's anything that you wanted to discuss but didn't get the time, an hour runs really fast, and feel free to keep it going if you'd like.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
And thank you.
Thank you.
We're gonna go offline. Thank you guys so much.
Take care.